In the second section here on the portrait practice, use cross-hatching and rough edges. Be creative with the material. Again, you don't have to use a pen like the video, but try out charcoal, pencil, colored pencil. Continue to think about what material you're going to want to use for your final project. So as you start putting together the cross-hatching, think about areas that are darker where you're going to want to overlap your lines, and areas that are a little bit lighter where you're going to want to leave white or start to space things out. So I'm just starting with the nose here in the darkest areas first, so on the outside of the nose. And then on top of the nose, I'm just looking for those medium tones. So a lot of medium tones are going to be on the top of the nose here. I'm overlapping my lines, going in different directions. And I'm just kind of lightly starting with hatching first and continuing to look for those darkest areas to fill in as I'm working first. So I filled in the outside of the face, continuing to look at the curve or the form of the face. So the cheek is going to be the area that sticks out the furthest on the face besides the nose or lips here. So I'm following the curve of the cheek, thinking about the area that's going to be sticking out the furthest being the lightest because the light is hitting that section first. And then I'm going over the darker areas in the hair, continuing to follow the form or the curve of the hair, getting all of this filled in underneath the face. This darker shadow on the outside of the face lines up right next to a highlight, so make sure that you are leaving that section on the left side of the face white before you have that darker value in order to create a line or in order to create that contrast. So that's what's really going to make the face look more three-dimensional, is having areas like this that are really dark. So I'm trying to fade over my lines multiple times, really putting a lot of pressure with my pen in order to make that area appear darker. And then just really looking at my reference picture for the direction of the hair and areas that I need to add thicker strokes to. As you're shading in the hair, instead of doing a bunch of just single lines, look at it in thicker sections. So think of it as just areas of highlight and areas of shadow and value change versus individual strands of hair. So areas that are darker, I'm trying to go over more, really getting those outlined and a lot darker, and then areas of highlight, I'm leaving almost white or just going over them lightly in order to still have a little bit of texture. But that's what's going to create more of the contrast in the hair, is having large chunks of shadow and large chunks of highlights instead of lots of individual strands. So try your best to really look and see what's actually there on the reference picture versus taking a guess. As I'm continuing with the outside of the face, again, I'm just really looking at the form, trying to get this filled in, following value change, making these sections under the face here dark and kind of fading that out to more of a lighter value. Then continuing on to the lips, underneath the lip is going to be one of the darkest areas of the lips, and then along with that middle line separating the top and bottom lip. And then try to really follow the curve of the lips here. So making the C shapes like what we did in practice or the last facial feature practice, and looking at emphasizing that shadow underneath the chin and then lightly fading that out into more of the medium tones. And you'll notice I just went back over the left side of the face, making that a little bit darker. So always jump around, go back over spots that are the darkest shadows to continue pushing the contrast. And really look at the direction that you're shading on the top of the lip, on that skin there, fading it out into the areas of highlight, and then you have that darker strip right underneath the nose. Now on the bottom of the chin here, I'm trying to curve my lines. So again, they're not straight or flat, but I'm curving them with the shape and the form of the outside of the face and the outside of the chin. I'm just going over some different areas, trying to really fade from light to dark so I have good medium tones. Make sure that you do have those areas that transition. It's those transitions between light and dark that are really going to pull everything together. I'm looking at the right side of the hair here, emphasizing that darker section, really fading over top of it a couple of times to make sure that the face is going to pop out against that darker shadow that's underneath the chin. Then continuing with the hair, just looking at sections versus individual strands of hair. So trying to really think about areas that are dark and areas that are light, getting those filled in. And then the last spot there is just refining the details on the hand. And then there's not much background space here to work with, so you don't really have to worry about that for this second section. But think about if you're not going to be doing parallel hatching, and if you like this cross hatching, on your final project, would you do cross hatching in the background just to add some texture? Would you stick with parallel hatching and kind of have two different styles in the same project? Or would you go in with colored pencil in your background while the face is black and white? So definitely think about backgrounds as you're working and what you want that final project to look like.